Cooking for Health, a community cooking class brought to you by First Choice Community Healthcare, Agricultura Cooperative Network, La Cosecha, and other valued community partners. Welcome back to our low sodium cooking series. Introducing Fallon Bader of the Sprouting Kitchen. Fallon Bader is a registered dietitian, avid cook, and loves supporting local farms. She is passionate about teaching people nutritious, easy, and seasonal recipes. Today, Fallon will be showing us how to make crispy chickpea and steamed kale.
Hi there, I'm Fallon Bader. I'm a registered dietitian and I love to cook. So today I'm going to show you guys a really quick and super tasty recipe that does not use a lot of sodium. So it's a nice low salt, low sodium recipe. So let us really get to it today. We're going to be crisping up some chickpeas in a lot of different spices and then adding some kale on top, putting a lid on it and letting it steam up nicely. So the first thing we want to do is get our pan preheated. So I'm going to turn mine on to about a medium-low heat. And then once it gets a little bit warm, in here I have some grapeseed oil. You could use even some olive oil would be good here. Avocado oil would be nice. Even some coconut oil would do the trick. So I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of oil right on in the pan. And we will let that get nice and warm. And then the chickpeas. So I have here a salad spinner, and what I did is I just spun my chickpeas after I rinsed them. So you want to get all that kind of like liquid that they're in off of them, and then really let them dry. So the drier that they are, the more crispy they will get. So what you could even do is take just a regular towel and just kind of rinse them or, dry them off just a little bit extra. Ooh, one of those fell in there. And let's see, I'm gonna move that oil around a bit, let it get nice and warm. And then we're gonna add our chickpeas right in here. So I'm using chickpeas for this recipe because chickpeas hold their texture really well. They're really firm. You can totally do this recipe though with other beans. Pinto beans, black beans, white beans, those would all be really nice. So any bean you have, and this is canned, you could also make beans from scratch as well. I do find though that canned beans tend to be a little bit firmer, right? Those like slow cooked beans are delicious, but a little more soft. All right, so once your oil is warmed, we're gonna add our chickpeas in there. If you didn't have a salad spinner, just put them through a colander and then leave them out for a little bit. Take the tile to dry them off. You just want to make sure they get really nice and dry. Okay, now we're just gonna kind of make sure all that oil gets on our chickpeas. I'm using a cast iron pan here. You could really use whatever pan you like, but I like cast iron because it allows things to get really nice and crisp, which is what we want for this recipe. Alright, so now we are going to add our spices. So our spices are really where we're going to add that flavor. A lot of times people just rely on adding a lot of salt to add flavor to their dishes, but we want to use spices because they are a great way to add flavor without adding tons of salt. So first up, we're gonna add some cumin. We're gonna add 1 teaspoon of cumin. We're gonna make these chickpeas really nice and well spiced. So cumin is really nice and earthy. Then we're gonna add some smoked paprika. So smoked paprika is actually just dried, like a sweet red pepper, and then they smoke it to give it that extra depth of flavor. That's always a good one. And then next I have some salt-free chili powder. And this is a blend, so in here is chili pepper, cumin, oregano, coriander, garlic, rice concentrate, allspice, and cloves. So it's just a nice blend to have on hand, and I think it adds just a ton of really great flavor. But you could really use any of those ingredients for this. You can use whatever spices you like here. You could add like oregano on its own. You can make it more herby by adding other dried herbs. The beauty of this recipe is you can add many different things. Oh, and this is garlic powder that I bought in like a bulk section of Sprouts, the grocery store. I love to go to Sprouts and get their and buy the spices in bulk there. It's just a really great way to buy as much or as little as you want of a certain spice. Ooh, forgot my salt. And then we will lastly need just a quarter of a teaspoon of salt. So really we don't need much salt here, just a quarter of a teaspoon right on there. And now let's give this a good stir. You could also add a little extra cayenne pepper if you wanted, you know, a little more heat in there. You could even do some dried red chili pepper, up to you on what you were feeling like in terms of heat level. And you can see, let me pick this up a bit, the chickpeas are already getting nice and like a deep color from those spices, and then they'll also start to get a little bit crispy and a little bit just nice and flavored from that spices. Alright, so now our chickpeas are just gonna sit in a nice kind of even layer here, because we want all the chickpeas to kind of hit that hot skillet. That's gonna cause that nice crisping action. So let those hang out there. And then the next ingredient is, I have some curly kale here. You could really use any type of kale. You could use spinach, you could use collard greens, Swiss chard, any dark leafy green, but I really like kale in this recipe. And you don't even need a knife here. What I'm doing is I'm just ripping the kale off of the stem. And then from here, I'm just gonna kind of break up the stem a little bit, or the leaf a little bit. So I'm just taking my hand and pulling it off the stem. This would be a really fun recipe to do with kids because everything is pretty kid friendly. Not a lot of knives. There's a lot of just things you can do with your hands, mixing, measuring, ripping. But also this is a meal if you're just cooking for one and you want something really quick. This is like just one of my favorite go-to meals. It's just a great way to get some good protein from your chickpeas. And then the kale, you'll see, it's amazing how this cooks up so quickly. Like you have, you know, in 5 minutes our chickpeas are almost ready, and now our kale, we ripped it up, it's ready to go. And then we're just gonna put it on top and let it steam, and you're gonna watch this huge pile of kale really shrink down. All right, so now let me give my chickpeas one more stir. And I'm on, once again, like a medium-low heat. All right, and then I'm just going to shake them and then put my kale right on top. If you see any like, you know, large pieces of kale, as you do this, you can just rip them up, but you know, they don't all have to be the same exact size. Okay, so flatten it, smush it, take your lid and put it right on here. And you can, now you really want the heat to be at like a low, because now we're just gonna let that kale steam for a couple minutes. We don't wanna burn the chickpeas. So just put your lid on and then let it steam for a couple minutes, and we will see you then. Alright, so after about 2 minutes, I like to just kind of check on the kale and give it a nice little turn here because the kale at the bottom is going to steam a lot faster than the kale at the top. So I'm just kind of mixing it all nicely and then put that lid right back on top. Okay, it's been about another 2 or 3 minutes, so we will take the lid off. You can turn the heat off and turn your power off. And now look at your kale, it's nice and steamed. See, it's shrunk down so much. You know that it's steamed when it's shrunken a bit and it's really this nice bright green color. And then the last thing we're going to do is just cut 1 lemon in half. And then just squeeze some fresh lemon right on top. I really like a lot of lemon, so I'm gonna do pretty much the whole lemon in there. And that lemon really goes nicely with the kale. Kale can be a little bitter sometimes, so I like to add that lemon. It kind of balances it out nicely. All right, and then from here, you're just going to put your chickpeas and kale in a bowl. And this could feed, you know, 1 really hungry person or 2, you know, moderately hungry people, I would say. Just like that. And let me show you what that chickpeas look really nice and crispy, lots of flavor. Let's see, I'll taste it for y'all. It's gonna be hot, so I'll blow on it. But look, all of that kale, and you get just so much nice kale chickpeas in there. And this was made in like 10 minutes, so really great meal for lunch, dinner, whatever you need a meal for. Let's see. So good. Just the kale is nice and soft, but the chickpeas are nice and crispy. Lots of flavor. So try out this recipe and let us know what you think. See you later, everybody.
Thank you for watching. Tune in for the next fun and healthy recipe from Cooking for Health.